Hi, and welcome back to the Savvy Psychologist podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ellen Hendrickson, and every week I'll help you meet life's challenges with evidence-based research, a sympathetic ear, and zero judgment. Like an ill-fitting suit, jealousy is clingy and unattractive. Plus, it saps your confidence. So this week, by request from listener Sonia from Phoenix, Arizona, we'll cover 5 tips to stop feeling jealous. In common parlance, the term jealous often gets used when we actually mean envious, as in, your work sent you to Paris again? I'm so jealous. But in psychology, the two are distinct. Roughly, envy is when you want what belongs to someone else, whereas jealousy is when something, or more commonly someone, belongs to you, but you're threatened by the prospect of losing it. For example, when you covet your friend's sexy new leather boots, that's envy. But when you notice your husband's eye follow those boots across the room, that's jealousy. And jealousy is complicated. It's a swirling green mix of several negative emotions. And according to a 2008 paper by psychologists Robert Leahy and Dennis Turch of Weill Cornell Medical College, jealousy is a form of angry, agitated worry. It's rooted in the threat of loss, usually the threat of losing a relationship. As it happens, that same 2008 paper is chock full of great ways to fight your jealousy. So here is the cream of the crop. One asterisk is that the tips that follow assume there's no proof underlying your jealous fears. So as long as you haven't found unfamiliar underwear in your laundry, here are 5 tips to get a handle on your jealousy. Tip number 1, rein in your jealous actions. Let's make this clear. Jealousy happens to the best of us. Almost everyone gets at least a little jealous in provocative situations. If your partner is texting a former flame or going on a business trip with the hot new assistant, it's pretty natural to feel threatened. But it's another thing to turn those feelings into fruitless, jealous actions that shoot you and your relationship in the foot. For instance, calling hourly to check in on your partner, scrolling through his text messages while he's in the shower, asking over and over again if she really loves you, or making hostile and provocative statements like, you should just sleep with her and get it over with, you know you want to, offer none of the reassurance you're seeking, and, let's face it, don't particularly endear you to your partner either. So take a pledge. No more interrogations. No provocation. No attacks. No talking smack about your perceived competition. So cutting out the jealous actions is the best and most high-yield thing you can do for your relationship. But it's really hard to stop. So how to manage the angry worry that makes you hack into his email? Try tip number 2. Differentiate between your worry and the facts. Treating your feelings as truth is a common thinking error called emotional reasoning. For example, I feel guilty, so I must have done something wrong. Or, in the case of jealousy, I feel jealous, so he must be cheating. Again, jealousy is a legit emotion. You're totally allowed to have a feeling, but stop short of using your feelings as evidence. Your feelings are yours. Own them. So rather than projecting a feeling of jealousy onto your partner, he must be cheating, start your thought with the words, I feel. I feel jealous. I'm feeling threatened. I'm really vulnerable right now. State your emotion as the fact, not your extrapolation. Tip number 3. On a related note, remember your thoughts are just thoughts. Your current worries may come from real experiences. Maybe your mom left your dad or your heart was broken by your last partner. But remember, those relationships are different than the one you have now. Your thoughts are thoughts, not reality itself. So, test out a tool called metacognition, or thinking about your thoughts. Catch the thoughts that spike your jealousy. He thinks she's prettier than me. She's going to happy hour with her friends because she's not interested in me anymore. He's always looking at other girls. With these thoughts, jealousy makes you think the problem is with your partner, but it's likely that the problem is those angry and worried thoughts. So put those thoughts under a bright light and see them for what they are, just thoughts. Your next step is not to suppress them, which doesn't work anyway, but to notice them when they creep up. you don't need to take any action, and you can use metacognition to think to yourself, I can keep this in perspective, or I don't have to do anything about these thoughts, or I don't like having these thoughts, but it's okay to have them, and it doesn't mean they're true. All of which are better than interrogating her about whether the new guy at work is her type. Tip number 4, challenge your need for reassurance. Speaking of which, interrogations, no matter how gentle, are basically digging for reassurance. You want airtight verification that your relationship is safe. But even if your partner reassures you, how long does it last? Right, not long, if at all. So you can do 2 things about this. First, you can try your hardest to stop asking. File this under jealous behaviors from tip number 1, and remind yourself it's not working for you or your partner. Second, if your partner is willing, you can enlist him or her in a project to battle your anxiety. Together, come up with a gentle, kind, but non-reassuring response for him or her to give you when you ask if they really love you. Such as, I think the worry is acting up again. Or, I know you can handle this anxiety. You've been doing really great these last few days. Tip number 5, say your jealous thought over and over again. I know you're skeptical about this one, but hear me out. So first, phrase your fear as an uncertain statement, such as, it's always possible he could cheat, or I'll never know for sure if our relationship will last. You'll cringe at first, but say it over and over until your brain gets bored. In the car by yourself, at home with no one around, say out loud, he could cheat on me at some point, for a good 10 minutes. The next day, do it again. This is called flooding, and will get your brain used to, or indeed, downright bored with, the inherent uncertainty in loving someone deeply. And yes, at first you'll hate saying your fear out loud, much less repeating it, but I promise it will get easier and easier until you can think it without that green spike of jealousy. In short, jealousy is one of the toughest emotions because it's a mix of feeling anxious, hurt, and threatened. But with willingness and practice, you can wither that green-eyed monster until it fades away. And then you'll just have to deal with your cat being jealous whenever you get sucked into cute kitten videos on YouTube. If you've learned something from The Savvy Psychologist, let me know by liking on Facebook, subscribing to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher, or subscribing to the bi-weekly newsletter at quickanddirtytips.com/newsletters. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Dr. Ellen Hendriksen. A transcript of this and every other episode, as well as the references for the studies I mention, are always available on quickanddirtytips.com/savvy-psychologist. Next week, we'll cover that other emotion of inadequacy, envy, and how not to be envious. And of course, The Savvy Psychologist is strictly for informational purposes and doesn't substitute for mental health care from a licensed professional. Thanks again. I'll see you next week for a happier, healthier mind.